What up, guys? Welcome to the Base Sandwich Podcast. And this week, I got a zombie
I'm alive!
in the house today. No, for real, it's Matt, and that is with an at for the A. What is up, my dude?
It has been a minute, but well,
Wait, the fuck is this? Why does this do this?
I don't.
I don't.
You use Windows. Just don't question it.
No, it did this the other day, and I don't know what the hell's going on with it. I might have to restart the computer now. I don't know why. It does. I don't know. Fuck it. Okay. Continuing. I don't care. It's been doing this every time I try to record something. Anyway. So.
But it's still recording properly?
It's still recording. It's whatever. Anyway. So. Weird pop-ups aside, because of it's like, oh, your color scheme is fucked. Anyway. So. Like you said, it's been a minute since you've been in. The last one you were in, you said was like Konosuba?
I think it was Konosuba. And it's been a minute because that was way before we had Konosuba actually confirmed.
You know JP's got like a second set confirmed, right?
Well, good. Hopefully we can get that shit.
Here's
because more Mega Man is always good.
This is very true. I might need to pull up part of the cards and find out if any of that's been updated recently, but I do not know off the top of my head. See what I mean? Yes, sure. We'll just change the color scheme. Okay, everyone's gonna have to deal with this for a second because reasons. I don't know why it decides it wants to do that. Okay, so anyway, so the big thing for a lot of stuff that you know as far as terminology in this card game.
Sure.
A lot of that can be kind of confusing, isn't it?
It definitely was getting into it, but this is also a really weird game to learn when you're used to playing more standard things like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic.
Fair enough.
So, but yes, this definitely has a lot of weird mechanics. Like the new, I still call it new, but like the new,
He says new, but it's like months ago.
The new climax thing is still super weird to me.
Dude, the past like 2 deck profiles I've done have been on standby.
I know. It's just every time that shit gets played, I'm still like, okay, what does that shit do again?
But this might also be a good refresher for you. But anyway, so today's podcast, I did that whole little segue thing there for a reason. Outside of my computer flipping the fuck out for some goddamn reason. I don't know what the hell. So, last week, I posted up the other podcast, a comment got posted on that podcast. And that was, one dude made me really awesome, being like, "Hey, I really like to listen to y'all guys' content and whatnot," but he was also stating, "Look, I'm kind of still learning this game and whatnot." I'm paraphrasing, but
Sure.
Basically what it came down to is he's like, "I don't really understand when y'all say certain cards are clones of a particular card, or if y'all are trying to compare it to these other various terminology that we use in this card game that a lot of other people don't."
Well, yeah. Also, this card game is weird for that since each set is completely separate from the others when you play them.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably one of the only card games where this is as prevalent because if you don't play another set, you have no freaking clue what the other cards were.
And let's see, how do I put this? I figured this would be a good time to go over a lot of that terminology.
Sure.
I kind of have this posted up here just because, like, hey, look, Matt, ReZero.
I know.
He is so ready for that, and I know my wallet's crying.
I don't have the money for this, but I want it so badly.
But I figured it'd be cool to go over a bunch of cards and effects and whatnot, and a couple in particular I know were actually mentioned in the comments. In that comment was stuff like Hibiki, Taige clone, stuff like that, and dude was like, "Hey, I just don't understand what a lot of these are. Can you elaborate in the video?"
Sure. So this is more like, since this kind of started off as a podcast for teaching people how to play this game, and evolve/devolve from there.
Yeah, I know, right? It did this weird combination of the two.
Yeah, we're kind of sort of going back to our roots a little bit.
Just a little bit. But at the same time, sure. I mean, a lot of older players will still probably know a lot of this stuff, or
a refresher is always nice.
Honestly, pulling up a lot of these cards and effects, I feel like I'm probably forgetting stuff. So shout out to the older players who maybe you remember effects that I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head because it's been one hell of a month.
Yeah.
Um, so strap in, young lads and lasses, all ye players of the Weiss Schwarz. I don't know what the hell that was. That was just me being weird. So
Yeah, we're basically going to do a quick drive-by on several effects that come up very often, but are either in older sets, but are interesting effects, or ones that are incredibly common that people who are new may not have come into, especially since a lot of these clones get referred to as the first card that they were.
even one of them, we don't actually have in English.
Yeah.
Like, I found this out when I was talking to Waifu Wars, Benley, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's actually not from Idolmaster." I'm like, "Wait, what? I thought this was from Idolmaster the whole time." He's like, "No, it's this," and then told me the actual set that it came from. But we'll get to that card when we get to it. Anyway, this will be like a terminology coverage. So,
Sure.
Obviously one of the easiest ones right here is when people refer to the term heel tax. They're specifically referring to this ability right here on second Akatsuki class destroyer Hibiki. And she's a common. This is an amazing effect on a common,
Yeah.
just stating.
And everyone who hates Contai can just all sigh at this point, because that's where a lot of this interesting stuff comes in.
That's where,
Contai is when they started to really branch out and do interesting stuff, because there were so many different cards that they could actually experiment with what they were doing.
It was definitely a lot of cards.
And Contai caught a lot of hate for it.
It's at least one of the biggest sets that I know of. In English. I'm going to specifically state in English because, especially when it first came out, obviously like Love Live has more cards than it now. And
sure.
Stuff. But like, and shit, what was it? Oh my goodness, I can't think of the damn detective girls and stuff like
Milky
JP.
Holmes.
Milky Holmes and JP and whatnot.
We're not
like
talking JP. We're only talking English because, well, there are people that play JP, but we do not.
I want sets that are in JP.
It's slightly different.
I mean, the particular wall scroll over there that Matt keeps glancing at. Anyhow. So this effect is what we refer to as heel tax, and it is a memory effect. Basically, because of the first effect, Hibiki ends up being sent to the memory.
Yes.
And while she is in the memory, when your card or your opponent's card in the clock is put into the waiting room due to that respective player's card effects, that player may put the top two cards of their stock into the waiting room. If they don't, that player puts the top card of the deck into the clock. Now, that's a really elaborate way of stating if you try to play a level 3 that heals...
If anyone tries to play.
I say level 3. Or if either player tries to heal off of an effect, level 3, it could be... I've seen a level... it was like a level 0 or something or other that out of... oh my goodness, it was out of Bang Dream, the Afterglow cards or whatever. No, it wasn't After... I don't know, it was some... effect that it was like on a level 0 where you could like pay 2 stock, tap it, and heal 1 or something.
Yeah, well, I mean,
like
there's stuff like that in Persona too. The Doctor from Persona has an effect.
Oh yeah, no, she does. Well, is she a level?
She's a level 2 assist, I
think
believe.
2, something like that. But basically stating that if either player tries to heal cards off of their clock
from any position in their clock, not just the top.
We found out about this, and I actually have to go back and correct this in a podcast. I think it was in last week's podcast. Then basically that player has to do one of two things. Either they have to deal themselves a damage again.
So they've basically nulled out their entire heal.
Or they have to pay 2 stock.
Which is a lot, especially late game.
Especially late game. Now, if you got the stock to do it, that's your prerogative.
Yeah.
But not every single person's going to have
It also might be worth mentioning that when this set came out, healing was not as prevalent. I mean, there's...
there was a lot of healers, though.
There was, but a lot of them were... play on level 3, like heal on play. Nowadays there are tap effects for heals. I think there are like even heal brainstormers. I might be wrong on that.
Even then,
that sort of thing.
I remember. I think I know what you're talking about for a lot of the stuff. At least when I saw stuff, there were like events that did a decent chunk of it.
Sure.
Hanako from, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Idolmaster.
Yeah.
From Sayaka's Wish from Madoka and stuff like that did heal effects.
That's true. And then they got really.
There
also were a lot of crazy heal effects in Desgaia. That's when heal events got really weird.
Heal event?
Heal events.
I'm still saying which card from Disgaea? Because I'm just not remembering off the top of my head.
Pudding Mountain.
Pudding Mountain.
Pudding Mountain. It's a weird card.
I believe you. I just want to see this. I don't know if we got it.
We did. Weeaboo Jew used to play it.
Pudding Mountain.
I also may be misremembering the name of this card. Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Just choose up to 5 cards in your waiting room except climax cards. Return them to your deck. Shuffle your deck afterwards. If you return 5 cards, choose up 2 cards in your clock, put them into your waiting room. Okay, so if for 2 stock, it makes you refresh and heal 2, and then you put this in your memory. It's kind of funky.
Well, you don't really refresh. But okay.
Oh no, not refresh. I'm sorry. You put cards.
You shuffle in
decompress.
5. Yeah.
You decompress.
You decompress, yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
Just weird healing cards.
Fair enough.
But yeah, back when Contai first came out, a lot of your healing cards were healing being more prevalent in level 3 heal on plays.
Fair enough.
That's why 2 stock this became really annoying because 2 stock late game is not being able to play your 3rd level 3.
That's the thing is so many people don't. I do not see Contai topping as much now. Personally, this is me personally. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm sorry. Look at Worlds. It was 3 AOT decks.
Yeah.
From what I was told, there was still like a Contai player there or 2 or something. I cannot recall how many Contai decks were there.
Yeah.
It might have been more than 2. I'm sorry. I don't know everything. But I mean, for real, who won AOT?
Interesting. Yeah.
So.
Interesting things like this are why people hated Contai and why Contai got so big when it first came out, though.
Mm-hmm.
So now that this game has evolved some, and a lot more of the effects on cards are more reminiscent of the actual characters on the cards. I mean, I'm gonna, I haven't said this in a long time, but being someone who came in with Bakemono was a weird set, but it was more standardized effects. It wasn't as cool as stuff like from Persona, where you get interesting card effects that actually play on, like Konosuba. Since Konosuba was the last time I was here, was when they really started doing it. I'll still remember freaking out when I saw that Megumin that does the clock shove, tap for the 4, and then shoves it. I just wish that this game had always been kind of like that, because, man, it has made this game a lot more interesting.
Absolutely. One of the things I will go ahead and correct from the last podcast.
Sure.
I want to say it was the last one. It might have been the one before that. There was an Afterglow level 3 that heals from the bottom of the clock.
Bottom of the clock, yeah.
And I was initially told that doesn't trigger heal tax, but then when I went back and reread this heal tax, it just says from the clock. It doesn't say from the top.
From the clock.
I thought it was
anywhere in the clock.
I thought it was from the top. So according to this, and I even checked because I actually have a physical copy of the card, obviously, because I've run Contai.
Yes.
So, is the fact of it doesn't stay on top of the clock. It is from anywhere. Anyway, so now for those who do play this and don't want to be too terribly discouraged about this effect, I will go ahead and say, like I said, Contai does not seem to be like really playing too terribly much.
Yeah, it was the meta at one point, kind of, sort of.
Even less than that, and even more so used to be the meta. There was a kill card that had the same memory effect verbatim nearbound. Which is Encounter with Senketsu Ryuko, which also has a similar effect, like the Hibiki being able to summon another bigger copy of herself, stuff like that. So through using the first effect, they go into memory, and then they go...
and you set up the heal tax for later.
For, like, at level 0, you set it up, which is insane. So...
in both instances.
So, yeah. The next big one, once again, going back to some... There's quite a few Contai cards here, I'm just stating.
Yep.
But I'm going to show their counterparts. So there's 2 copies of heal tax in English. There are 2 copies of what is anti-salvage. Salvaging referring to getting characters back from your waiting room to your hand.
It's a little bit of terminology there. I think that's just what we ended up calling it. I don't think that if it's officially called that anywhere.
There was there was a, I don't know if this is where the term came from, but just a literal salvage thing. There was a spell card in Yu-Gi-Oh called Salvage.
Okay.
And it lets you get back water monsters or fish or something like that. Something of that nature.
2 water monsters.
2 water monsters, some of that. Add back to your hand from the graveyard.
Okay, so that might be where it got picked up.
possibly, and that's the closest comparison that I can even attempt to think of at this point.
Yeah, sure.
So, what this does is this effect right here. It's your second effect. During the attack phase, it doesn't state either player's attack phase. When your character or your opponent's character is returned to the hand from the waiting room, all of that player's characters get -3 soul until end of turn.
Interesting to see that this actually works for both players.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where the thing is being able to run all these anti-effects.
Yes.
Are really really cool for Contai.
Yeah, there's a reason that Contai got a lot of hate.
And this particular card, and just
people who have been with the podcast for a long time, go look at the thumbnail for the second podcast. That's all I gotta say.
So, we'll just bounce it to this one just for you. But no, this is the other one. So first you have the Hatsukaze from Contai.
Yes.
Then you have Sitting Mikan from To Love Ru. And those are the only two anti-salvages that I know of in the game.
Yeah, and when this effect actually came back, everyone was like, hey, have you seen the new anti-salvage? And a lot of people were like, what is that? Because there was quite a distance in between the first set that actually had this effect and this version.
Now, one of the effects that this punishes severely is I'm not trying to emphasize it you. He turned and gave me this weird look, like what you trying to say, Willis?
Yeah, these are the bane of my existence in my early days.
The climax cards, the 1K1 climaxes that state when this card triggers, you can add a character back from your waiting room to your hand,
or any effect that lets you salvage during the battle phase, like on reverse salvage, which is what I love to do. Yeah. So a lot of those, it hurts severely if you do it during the attacks. If you do it during the attack phase. If you do it in the main phase, this never triggers. Yeah, if you have a level 3 that, say, when you play it, you salvage a character, that is during the main phase, which is one of the very few ways you can actually get around this.
So, I know I've also done like little videos here and there discussing a lot of this stuff anyway of how to play around it, but like I said, this is going back to like terminology. This is what we refer to as the anti-salvage effects. So, it punishes your opponent because they lose 3 soul off all of their characters, and I've had this happen on... My opponent does this on like their first attack. They hit that climax that salvages. They do the effect, and I'm just like, I'm not taking any damage this turn, dude, unless you trigger some like double souls or some bullshit. And he's just like, nope.
Yeah, anything that actually eats your opponent's entire turn is nice.
But now getting into more of the quote unquote clone cards. This being one of the more popular ones, and that is a Winter Moment Akatsuki. So if someone states Akatsuki clone, this is what they're talking about. So it just has this one effect, but this effect I've seen on other cards.
It's very prevalent now.
Very much so.
Is this the actual first instance of an effect like this?
No.
Okay. It just was probably the most popular.
Yeah. There was some other ones, but this is what I would always compare it to.
Yeah, sure.
It's like another one of the cards we're going to show, the effect came from an earlier card, but I always refer to the particular clone of that card as that one. So but we'll show that one in a sec. Okay, but this one, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost, which is putting a card from your hand into the waiting room, so you discard one. If you do, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck. Choose one Fleet Girl, but insert, there's a music version of this.
Music for sure.
Just all,
music, probably weapon, because there are a ridiculous amount of sets that use weapon. Also magic.
Magic, absolutely, because there was a reverse one of this for the Konosuba one. But that was on death, not on play. You can add one of the Fleet Girl character from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. So, if anybody remembers Pot of Duality from Yu-Gi-Oh! Once again, I'm making Yu-Gi-Oh! Comparisons. It lets you check a certain number of cards off top of your deck after you pay the cost, and you get to add one of those that meets the condition. Now, like I said, so I've seen this in Love Live. I've seen this in Idolmaster.
We just said Konosuba.
Konosuba has one that's on death.
Similar.
The other 2 sets that I mentioned have them on play.
Okay. Which is better.
Absolutely. That's what people prefer. Is the fact of being able to do it on play is just better.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can overlay one to get the on death, but
that's using up more from hand in my opinion. But that's whatever.
Used a lot early game.
Because you still end up discarding.
Yeah.
So
Using a lot early game, seeing as a lot of these are level 0, and early hand fixing is the best type of hand fixing.
It really is, especially when you open with 5 climaxes, isn't it? He's hating me. Okay, so he is really mad at me. So anyway, like I said, like take Fleet Girl and near about interchange it with umpteen other traits that are in the game.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few sets that have Akatsuki clones. But it's because this effect does so much good hand filtering, lets you dig deeper. It's an additional brainstorm. You get to look at up to 4. You essentially mill 4 cards from the top of your deck at the end of this. If you get stuff or whatever. There's
at the very least compression, which is always good.
To also state for AOT, there's a similar one. It's an Armin, but I can't remember a single ray of light. A single ray of light Armin. I
could not tell you.
So of light. I just want to double check it because just off the top of my head, I do not remember the exact. I think it's Armin. I could be wrong. Yep. Okay. So this is a similar thing. We're just gonna pull this up because reasons. So this is a similar effect. This is not exactly the Akatsuki clone effect. When it's placed on stage from your hand, you may reveal up to three cards from the top of the deck. So you reveal first, and then you discard later. So if you revealed 1 or more cards, you can choose up to 1 yellow character or one of the events, the mobility gear that they have, and amongst them add it to your hand. Put the rest in your waiting room, then choose a card in your hand, put it into your waiting room. So
and this is better because you can actually check, and if you didn't get anything better, you can pitch something.
If you can always pitch what you add. That's whatever for this. But it's the fact that you don't have to pay the cost first.
Sure.
Which is kind of cool. So you can kind of filter a little bit better. This does something similar, yes, but I don't consider this an Akatsuki clone. If that sounds...
It's in the same bent, but it's not quite a clone.
But it's... Agreed, but to me it's more limited. Admittedly, the AOT meta is primarily yellow. It's yellow-red, essentially. So as far as how they're... for their setup... So that's kind of whatever to me. I don't consider this particular one a clone, though. Now, going back to the Akatsuki, also that Armin's at level 1. This is at level 0. This helps set up combos for Contai. A lot of the other ones just help go ahead and get to your level 1 combos.
Yeah, since
do what you need.
Contai was good on really strong level 1 combos.
So, that's it. That Shimakaze, right?
That Shimakaze, though.
No. So this is if you hear someone say Akatsuki clone, more often than not,
this is the origin.
So, next we have
another Contai,
but resupply vessel Taige.
And you hear this one thrown around a lot because this is a very common effect.
Taige clone. If anybody refers to now this is the one I was talking about. There was a card before this that people referred to this this effect. There was an Ellie from Love Live.
That was been confirmed as the first actual application.
I say first, but that's what I heard people saying first.
Sure.
Was it's an Ellie clone, and I'm like, the fuck is what Ellie?
Yeah.
Because the Love Live that I knew of at the time, I'm going, there's way too many of copies of every single one of these girls. Which one?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't ever figure out the exact card. So that's the effect right here. That states this card gets 500 power for each of your other Fleet Girl characters. It's a little bit more than just this effect, admittedly, because look, also this is a 1/0/4/5.
Yeah. See, that type of effect is not uncommon, especially in sets before this and after this. That's not an uncommon effect to have, but this is one of the first ones that came up where you can play it at level 1 with no cost.
Yeah. The Ellie did the thing similar, but when the term the Taige clone gets thrown around, it's almost literal for this, and that is the fact of
that's true.
There's a Frankenstein from Apocrypha that got leaked from the trial deck.
Oh, okay.
That is word for word, level for level, power for power. It literally matches color for color.
Yeah.
They're both blue. If I remember correctly, please correct me if I'm incorrect on that. But it matches everything. It's a zero cost level 1, 4,500 power, and the end result is she becomes 6,500 if you have a full fucking field.
Yes, which is really good for no stock cost.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's
when you hear
great.
the word clone getting thrown around a lot, this is probably the origin, because there are a lot of sets that have almost this exact card nowadays.
Yeah, there's quite a few. That's the thing. I mean, like I said, I could probably look up every single one of them, but that just takes too long.
Yeah.
But if you just hear that term get thrown around, Taige clone.
If
This
you're,
is
if you're playing with older players, this is probably what they're going to use.
If it's older, they're probably gonna say Ellie clone.
That's true. But if you're playing,
right.
You're right.
But it's all good, and I also, she's adorable looking. I mean, just look at that face. So cute. Just say.
I don't know, man. I don't dig ships.
You don't dig ships?
Not usually.
I mean, you don't dig them. You sail them.
My entire life has been a lie.
Okay, so one of the last major ones, which I'm going to go ahead and like X out of some of these other ones just because unlimited tab works, right? So then one of the last ones, and this is not the original version of this quote unquote clone. And this is also not one of those like word for words verbatim copies like the Taige is.
Yes.
But it's Miria Akagi. I was supposed to say Mirai, and I'm like, that's not right. The A and the I would have to be switched, Billy. So Miria Akagi is a 00-1500, and it's the first effect. So it's got two effects, but it's going to be this effect right here is what you're looking at for the quote-unquote Riki clone. So the actual card for this term, Riki, is from a set called Rewrite. I think that was what I was told. Hold up, I double checking because I messaged Bentley earlier and he's like, I'm like, hey dude, could you please confirm what this set was from? Okay, original Riki is what? Riki is a dude. Riki is from Little Busters. I'm sorry. So there's an Akane from Rewrite. Okay, it's like how we were saying the Ellie and Taige thing. So initially it was a card called Akane from Rewrite, but there's a Riki from Little Busters that the actual terminology kind of stuck.
Okay. Gotcha.
So this is what I'm being told from someone who actually knows JP. So if you don't like what I'm stating here, just go bug them. Go to Waifu Wars, check them out. They are really awesome, and link in the description. All right. So you don't have a YouTube channel. You need to make a YouTube channel.
I don't have enough time to make a YouTube channel.
You give me.
I don't have
videos,
barely enough time. Okay, good. I mean, I barely have enough time to come over here and help you with this podcast.
You barely have enough time to see me. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, so getting to the effect is when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost, which is paying one stock and putting the top card of your deck into your clock. So you deal yourself a damage. And if you do, search your deck for up to one level 1 or lower character. Reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Now, this is not to be confused with other particular cards. I'm trying to remember, it was a Bang Dream one. Hold, I don't have access to that deck right now. Okay. This is not to be confused with drop searchers. There are certain level zeros that, like, on play, you can pay a stock and discard a card to still search your deck for a particular trait, a particular level, etc.
And that is a really, really prevalent effect nowadays.
Mm-hmm. But the biggest reason you don't want to confuse the two for this terminology is the fact that the drop searchers, you end up discarding a card.
Yeah.
For this one, you end up dealing yourself a damage, which at level 0 you don't fucking care.
For the most part.
For the most part, it's the fact of one nets you hand advantage just from being played, as opposed to the other you have to discard more cards from hand.
One is more like fixing.
One's more hand fixing too.
More you're fixing. This is you're just pulling straight advantage.
Oh, look at all these gold bars that are sitting in my hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So gold bars being the 1k1 green climaxes that go to your hand automatically. Sorry, I realize I need to state that. So, whereas this is, you're already playing a card from hand to be able to activate the effect. If you have to pay a stock and discard a card, additionally to that,
Sure.
that's where people are like, okay, it's just a hand filter thing, which is still really good. Drop searchers are still really good. Don't get me wrong.
They do improve efficiency a
but
lot.
This is nothing additional, and you push yourself to level 1 quicker.
Sure.
Because of that cost, which is really, really good.
This might not be as good late game because you might be afraid of taking the damage, but it still is one of those situations where you're running out of hand, but you need to push. Like Suicide for the last bit of damage.
I don't want to actually discard anything. I like my hand as it is.
I'm at 3-5, and there's that sad moment when you're at 3-5 and you're top decking and you have nothing on field.
Yeah. Or even even to say also, you've got your hand set up exactly how you want it, and you don't want to discard anything from it. So this is where that comes into play a little bit better in the fact of you don't have to get rid of your hand. You just play this one card and you net advantage.
Sure.
And
you don't have to mess up your setup that you have for days.
Exactly. So if I still want to tri-field, 3 level 1 reversers or I say level 1 reversers, like 3 level 1 climax combos. Jesus Christ, we need this for SAO. I'm just kidding. So if there's one for SAO already, I can't think of it off the top of my head. The typical card they would grab for this from Idolmaster was Nita Minami. Anyway, so this is a very, very similar effect to a lot of the Riki clones or something of that nature. I say similar because they might not say level 1 and lower character. It might state a music character.
Yeah.
It might
music.
It might have a different restriction on it.
Sure.
I'm
based on your set, of course.
Yeah. Once again, I could go through and pull up like every single thing, but we would be here forever.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we would be here for a while because trying to pull like all the examples of every single one of these cards and terms and whatnot would just take for forever. So, for the most part, that's a lot of the more major ones. Like I said, once again, if there's any other big clone effects, or if there's any other, I say clone in parentheses to state, more.
It's a bit of meta terminology, but
yeah, if anyone else can think of something that's like, or even someone ask a question, if you happen to know, or if you've heard another term being thrown around that you don't know,
yeah, sure.
Please just ask.
Any terminology that you need us to clarify, that would be interesting because, we make these videos.
Say we, and you haven't been here for so long.
That's true. These videos get made from a experienced player's point of view.
Kind of.
Yeah.
We're more experienced now in the past couple of years than recent. People still don't agree with a lot of the shit that I say. I don't care, but it's whatever.
Each one, if the game is much randomness as this, you can have your own opinion. It's perfectly fine. But like, if you have
opinions,
anything,
sir, people don't like opinions on the internet. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
You're
Carry
right.
on.
But if you guys have anything else you'd want us to clarify, or just different terminology that you hear used at your locals or whatever, then feel free to comment because
we'll try to answer.
Yeah. First of all, we'll try to answer, but that's also, we're here to help the Weiss community, so anything we can do.
You're saying we're trying to progress the community and make it grow.
We're trying to actually help it to make it be more inclusive so people can enjoy this awesome game.
Not just, shoving the word of, other groups and or channels down their throats.
Yeah, sure.
Like, what was it?
I can't think of what
it's called.
It's not a good idea.
I know there was a name there. I mean, I just can't remember.
There's a little bit of salt. We need more potato chips, apparently.
A little bit of salt? What are you talking about? Jesus Christ. The Dead Sea does not have enough salt. Anyway. I'm going back to this because she's cute. So, she's very adorbs. Anyway, so, Matt, since you've been out for a bit, as I say been out, but more been just busy with life.
Yes. Life does that.
I just wanted to get a quick thing here, because we still got a good couple minutes we can burn here.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on us finally getting ReZero?
Oh, well, I remember when they first confirmed the set in JP, and everyone who had been watching the series was like, oh, that's so amazing. So it's taken them a while. I'm kind of disappointed it's taken them this long.
Well, they first got it in Chaos, which is another game that Bushiroad runs.
Well, at which point, where's my Saga of Tanya the Evil set, Bushiroad?
I know, my dude.
Where's my Saga of Tanya? So
well, we could complain about that all day, because yeah. Anyway,
So yeah, but first of all, ReZero I think is gonna be really big, and I can already hear multiple people's wallets crying.
my own included, just
Yeah.
screaming in the background, just like
Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
So-
So that being said, I haven't looked at a lot of the ReZero cards because it's taken so
I thought you
long
were-
to make it from JP.
I thought you were in on one of the discussions, weren't you? Because weren't you also one of the people freaking out about the level 3 Reinhard?
No, I actually wasn't there for that one.
You were not there for
They
that?
told
Okay.
me about it afterwards, and it was like, it has how much text?
Oh yeah.
But
It has a wall of
Yeah.
text.
I know that that set is very, very interesting, and I'm really happy to see what they're doing with card effects as in related to the actual characters.
You know who else hates walls? Colossal Titan.
Yes.
Just saying. Yeah.
Right.
So,
So that on ReZero. When it comes to other upcoming stuff, I can think of a couple things. I mean,
mhm.
I haven't really paid much attention to Bang Dream. I'm sorry.
You're
At the
fine.
end of the day, I'm a Love Live person. That's where I'm gonna get my music.
Ooh.
Just saying. But this is one thing that I'm really, really, really surprised is going to come out. Shouldn't be say surprised because this was actually really popular in America. This
No,
series might have
I'm
actually been more popular in America than it was in Japan. I might be wrong on
I
that,
don't know.
but man, the hype train was hardcore when this series came out. So I'm actually really glad to see that Gurren Lagann is going to make the jump to English.
I'm so surprised this took so long though.
Yes,
Even for JP to get, I was so
Yeah.
surprised for it to get. It took so long for Weiss to get this.
yeah, sure. I think it's more because
I saw this in college. This has been
Yeah.
out since like 08,
You're
09.
right.
As far as like the anime. The
Yeah,
anime
sure.
for Gurren Lagann.
it has
been out
been
since
10 years. It's not often that they go back 10 years to do stuff.
I think I say 08. It might have been. I don't know. Anyway, fine. So, I'll say obviously, like you said, you don't care for.
It's not that I don't care for
I
Bang
say
Dream.
don't
It's just
care
I've
for-
seen a lot of interesting stuff about it.
If given the choice, you'd probably
But
pick something else.
given the choice, I'd pick Love Live if I was searching
Okay,
for music
if
characters.
you had to pick between Gurren Lagann and ReZero, which one are you looking for more? Ooh,
Well, the problem
I'm
is-
seeing him grimace on
the
here.
problem is that the demographic for these two shows is completely different. I would say ReZero hands down because I enjoy the more psychological, like mystery aspect. We watched ReZero week by week, and I don't usually do that for anime. But I mean, this guy would be like, "I got the new episode of ReZero. I'm coming to your house tonight," and we would just sit there and watch them. And there was nary a time where we would end an episode and I wouldn't be like, "What the fuck is that shit?
No, that
What
shit
the
was
fuck is
great.
that shit?"
That was great.
So there was just a
That
lot
was
of
like
moments.
the highlight of my week, my dude.
Yeah, there's just a lot of moments. ReZero did it much better for me than Gurren Lagann did. Not that I didn't enjoy a lot of Gurren Lagann, but it's kind of like taking the L out of Death Note. As soon as Kamina dies, it's kind of like, I liked this
Spoilers.
series.
It's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years.
Everybody should know.
But as soon as Kamina died, it really took the soul, the manly spirit out of that
Soul because Weiss Schwarz.
series. Yes, exactly.
Puns.
So
Unlimited pun works.
Yes.
Anyway. It's okay.
So I just have to say that I'm hyped for ReZero. It will be interesting to see what they do with Sungantapa, Gurren Lagann.
Thank you for saying the whole name.
The actual full name.
Because it actually is Tengun Toppa Gurren Lagann anyway.
Yeah. So it's not that I'm not going to be happy for Gurren Lagann, but when it comes to laying money on the table,
Oh.
ReZero all day.
I'm sorry. This drill will open a hole in the universe. Dot. And that hole will. Dot dot dot. The fuck?
Yeah, well, it's
Anyway, sorry.
It's
Minor annoyances on my part. So, yeah.
hands down ReZero. Plus, ReZero has a lot more interesting waifus, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, true. You and Cam both like Amelia.
No. Amelia, get that.
We love
Clock
you,
that
Cam.
bitch all day.
We
Get
love
in the
you,
trash
Cam.
can.
We love you, Cam. Oh man.
Yes. Like I
Cool.
said, there was not many weeks where there are not moments where I just lost my shit over ReZero. So ReZero over Gurren Lagann every day. Not just today, not just tomorrow, just not in this set. Every day.
The problem being sales date to be announced. What year you think we're gonna get it?
Oh, I don't know. As long as they don't hit us like Abyssals, because Abyssals took what, 2 years.
No, it was like a year maybe. I don't know.
Still.
I don't recall exactly on that.
Same thing with Persona 5. Persona 5 got pushed back a lot.
Oh yeah.
So I'm hoping we see it in my lifetime. We might not. Who knows?
Fair enough.
That's okay. I'll make sure my kids watch this series
Oh, absolutely. So
when they're older. When I have them.
see you having twin girls now. All right, Rem and Ram, sit down. We have to show you this anime.
No. Maybe, but no.
Any whore.
I feel like I've made a horrible life obligation now. If I have twin girls.
2 twin girls.
If I have twin girls, you're just not gonna let up about that, are you?
Not at all.
Well, here's hoping not. But if so, that'd be cute as shit.
If you have a boy, I'm just gonna name him Subaru.
Please
Kidding,
don't.
kidding. Or Beetlejuice.
That's worse. But okay.
Well, then if I can get your kid somehow yelling "Des" at random times, that'd be amazing. He is just hating me so much right now.
Has anyone ever told you that you might be literally the worst cool uncle ever?
The worst cool uncle.
I'm not saying you're not the cool uncle. I'm just saying that you might be the worst cool uncle.
I don't know. Anywho.
My kids didn't have an allowance, but then you taught them card games, and now, well...
Yeah. So, on that, we'll probably get signing off in just a second here. Yeah, for the most part, this game has definitely got a lot of like weird terms. I know I'm kind of bouncing back to the initial topic.
Right.
The fact of this game has a lot of weird terms. This game has a lot of interesting nicknames for stuff that players have come up with, and I actually like that it's the fact that players have come up with that, not just the company labeling it.
Yeah, it's good that this game has a lot of weird mechanics. It's very different, but it's also better that the makers of this game have actually allowed the fan base to do their own thing. It's not like Komani.
Okay, elaborate.
Well, it's...
I could see what you're kind of saying where the company hasn't been like, no, that's not what it's called.
Yeah, this is a card game. I can give examples, but probably shouldn't.
You don't want to talk MTG up here, do you? I just thought of something for a future podcast idea.
Okay. See, the thought process is, Wizards has done a lot with Magic and steered it in a certain direction. We're not even going to talk about Co-Money when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they will wreck their game for more money. And then another good example would be like Force of Will, which is now dead because of the way they push their card game.
It's still being played, but it's
it
nowhere
is,
near
but
as
they've
much.
kind of like nerfed their own game by pushing it so hard. It's refreshing to see. Bushiroad does a good job of going, hey, here's a game that's different, and we're not going to give you a lot of shit about the way you play it. Now, this might be only my experience, but I'm also super chill when it comes to card games. But also in the Weiss community that I've seen, it's not as crazy as like the Magic community is.
Agreed.
In general.
I'll give you that.
And we're not going to talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh community because, well...
Yeah, we can. There's only but so much toxic levels we can,
Yeah, thievery, cheating.
I'm talking about just, as far as like blasphemy.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's true.
I say that, but I also at some point plan to do more Yu-Gi-Oh stuff for the channel, and then it just never happened.
Yeah, wow.
I might still end up doing like some deck profiles here and there, but I just, for the most part, just have not really bothered with it because Yu-Gi-Oh just died for me, personally. Anywho, we could go on this forever and a day. So, with that,
yeah, I came back to the podcast. That's why there are 1,000 times more rabbit trails in this podcast than there usually are. I'm sorry.
I enjoy it. No, you're fine. I'm usually the one having.
I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm actually apologizing to the listeners because, well.
Speaking of, if y'all want to, please subscribe if you want. If not, just hey, it's cool for stopping by and checking out the podcast. If nothing else, just do support this game. Like I really enjoy this game and I want to see it grow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be it for now. This is Kool-Aid. We've had Brother Matt, and we will see y'all on the flip side. Peace out for now.
Peace.